Alright, so I'm going to read a fragment of the book of Noah. It's contained in the first book of Enoch, and it's on chapter 106. That's in Roman numerals, CV1. C equals 100, V1 equals 6, therefore you have chapter 106. So, we're going to read regarding Noah's appearance as a newborn, and what were some of his characteristics like as a child. So, let's read verse 1. It says, "And after some days my son Methuselah took a wife for his son Lamech, and she became pregnant by him and bore a son." Verse 2, "And his body was white as snow, and red as the blooming of a rose." Very interesting. "And the hair of his head and his long locks were white as wool, and his eyes beautiful." Now I want to pause here. I want to mention that the little crosses you see engulfing this little section in verse 2, it's describing possibly a mistranslation in the text, or it might have been that there was a mistranslation and they corrected it. We're not sure. I'm not going to make any assumptions. But nonetheless, I will not let this little mistranslation or retranslation stop me from examining what I am reading to you guys. So we're going to take a very close look at it and see what we got. Let's continue reading. It says that, again, his body was white as snow and red as the blooming of a rose. The hair of his head, quote unquote, his long locks were white as wool, and his eyes beautiful. And when he opened his eyes, he lit up the whole house like the sun, and the whole house was very bright. Verse 3, "And thereupon he arose in the hands of the midwife, opened his mouth, and conversed with the Lord of righteousness." Here you have another indicator that there was possibly a correction to a mistranslation in verse 3. But again, that's not going to stop us. Let's keep going. Verse 4, "And his father Lamech, the father of Noah, was afraid of him and fled, and came to his father Methuselah." Verse 5, "And he said unto his father, I have begotten a strange son, diverse and unlike man, and resembling the sons of the God of heaven. And his nature is different, and he is not like us. And his eyes are as the rays of the sun, and his countenance is glorious." So here you have Lamech, the father of Noah, running to his father Methuselah and letting him know that he has begotten a strange son, and he looks like the sons of heaven, meaning the angels. He looks like one of the angels of heaven, or a category of one of the types of angels that are in heaven. And he said that he has a different nature than most of the previous sons that were before him. And obviously his appearance is what's striking Lamech in awe. And he's quite wary that this son might not even be from him. Sounds like that's what he's getting at, but we shall see. Here it's describing that his eyes are as the rays of the sun, and his countenance glorious. Okay, eyes as the rays of the sun, meaning they were very bright. And let's go to verse 2. It says that his body was white as snow, and red as the blooming of a rose, and the hair of his head, his locks were white as wool. Now, I don't know if you guys have seen wool, but that's like kind of wavy-ish type of hair, like, like a lamb has. And, or I'm not sure if that's the best description, but it's kind of like wavy hair, wool, or it's got like a different texture to it. If you could Google pick it, and go to Google pick and type in white wool, and you'll see the type of texture of hair that is. And it says that His hair was white. The only thing that closely resembles white wool, if you look it up, as far as human hair goes, would be people of blonde hair. And here it says that his eyes were beautiful, are beautiful. So, blonde hair, colored eyes. You do the math. And I know it has a mistranslation or retranslation here, but even aside from all that, it's describing that he was, according to the text, the first one of his kind in the Adamic line. His body was white as snow and red. Meaning red as in he showed the color of his blood when he blushed like a rose, as it says here. So the description is pretty clear. It's given us metaphor of what was the color of Noah, and given us a clear indication what was the exact color. So it's not just a metaphor, it's explaining itself. So there's nothing hidden for you to wonder about. So if what we're reading here is accurate, as far as this little indicator in verse 2, then that would make Noah the first ever white man in the Adamic line. And if this description is true, with the long locks, white wool, and the beautiful eyes, that means that would make him the first ever blonde in the Adamic line. His eyes were as the rays of the sun, because at first I thought it was Japhet were your Asiatic people, the people from the Far East, and maybe so. But, I haven't seen an Asian with colored eyes. Most of them have long dark hair and, normal colored eyes. So here it's letting you know that it has a vivid color. It stands out. So I don't know no Asians like that. So what I'm getting at is, at first I need to correct myself, because I thought Japhet was Asian. Your Asiatic people. And after reading this verse, I had to reconsider and think maybe the Asians were just maybe. Don't take my word for it. I'm still looking into this. He was probably an extension of one of the sons of Japheth. They came down later down the line. Or maybe not. But as far as Noah's description goes, without a shadow of a doubt, he has a type of countenance that you find people living in the Nordic nations up in Europe. The people in Sweden with the long blonde hair, with the blonde hair and the blue eyes or colored eyes, whatever you call it. And ironically enough, that is also some of the appearance of some of the angels in heaven. So he resembled them in that aspect. So let's continue reading. Verse 5 says, I had begotten a strange son, diverse from and unlike man, and resembling the sons of God of heaven. And his nature is different, and he is not like us. And his eyes are as the rays of the sun, and his countenance glorious. Verse 6, and it seems to me that he is not sprung from me, but the angels. And I fear that in his days a wonder may be wrought on the earth. Verse 7, and now, my father, I am here to petition thee and implore thee that thou mayest go to Enoch our father and learn from him the truth, for his dwelling place is amongst the angels. So Lamech wants to know what's up with this strange son. He thinks that this son might belong to one of the fallen angels, because he looked like them. So he's thinking, this is probably not even my kid. So he went to his father so he could commune with Enoch to get some word on what the heck is going on, basically. Verse 8 says, And when Methuselah heard the words of his son, he came to me to the ends of the earth, for he had heard that I was there. And he cried aloud, and I heard his voice, and I came to him. And I said unto him, Now this is Enoch speaking, Behold, here I am, my son. Wherefore hast thou come to me? Verse 9. And he answered and said, Because of a great cause of anxiety have I come to thee, and because of a disturbing vision have I approached. And now, my father, this is verse 10, hear me. Unto Lamech my son there had been born a son, the like of whom there is none, and his nature is not like man's nature, and the color of his body is whiter than snow, and redder than the bloom of a rose. So here again, the description. And the hair of his head is whiter than white wool. And his eyes are like the rays of the sun, and he opened his eyes, and thereupon lit up the whole house. Verse 11, And he arose in the hands of the midwife, and opened his mouth, and blessed the Lord of heaven. Verse 12, And his father Lamech became afraid, and fled to me, and did not believe that he was sprung from him, but that he was in the likeness of the angels of heaven. And behold, I come to thee that thou mayest make known to me the truth. Verse 13, And I, Enoch, answered and said unto him, The Lord will do a new thing on the earth, and this I have already seen in a vision, and make known to thee that in the generation of my father Jared, some of the angels of heaven transgressed the word of the Lord. See, these are the fallen angels, and Noah's resembling the angels that came down during the times of Jared. So he's thinking, does this kid even belong to me? Like thinking his wife's probably been unfaithful, or he don't know what's going on. That's why he went to seek his dad, so he could talk to Enoch, who was with God at the time, so he could get some word on what's going on, because he seems very confused. 14, verse 14 says, And behold, they commit sin and transgress the law, and have united themselves with women, and commit sin with them, and have married some of them, and have begot children by them. Verse 17, And they shall produce on earth giants, not according to the spirit, but according to the flesh. And there shall be a great punishment on the earth, and the earth shall be cleansed from all impurity. Verse 15. Wait, I think the verses aren't lined up properly here. Here they got verse 17, then 15, then 16. Okay, whatever. Let's keep reading. Yeah, there shall come a great destruction over the whole earth, and there shall be a deluge and great destruction for 1 year. Verse 16, And this son who has been born unto you shall be left on the earth, and his 3 children shall be saved with him, when all mankind that are on the earth shall die, and his sons shall be saved. Remember, Noah's 3 sons were Japheth, Shem, and Ham. So all these 3 races sprung from Noah, the first white man, and I say that with all respect and love, in the Adamic line. And now make known to thy son Lamech that he who has been born is in truth his son, and call his name Noah. For he shall be left to you, and he and his sons shall be saved from the destruction which shall come upon the earth on account of all the sin and all the unrighteousness which shall be consummated on the earth in his days. So